Hi there, welcome to Tuesday's Indycar. I'm Gordon Ross. Today I want to talk to you about, well, how independent will the UK be after Brexit? How capable is it of surviving by itself? And we're often told that the UK is, and I quote, greater than the sum of its parts, and this is due to, and I quote yet again, pooling and sharing. In other words, sharing resources and strengthening the UK through sharing the resources of the four nations, the four component parts of the United Kingdom. But how true is this? How true is it that the UK is stronger and greater than the sum of its parts? It seems to me, at least, that the sum of its parts is actually worse. It's not as strong, it's not as great as the sum of its parts, not greater than the sum of its parts, because the sum of its parts is very unequal. Let's take an example. Scotland has the only part of the UK economy which runs in the black and has a trading surplus. Now, if Scotland has a trading surplus, that begs the question, why is it that the strongest part of the UK, i.e. England, is not doing a lot better than we are? Why is it that we are running in the black and they aren't? Why is it that we can manage on our own and they can't? Well, that's a good question, but I think it's down to the fact that we're not governed by Westminster when it comes to things like the way we do business with other people abroad. Now, the other problem is this business of pooling and sharing. Now, with the UK about to leave the European Union, and with the news today that it's very, very unlikely that anybody will accept whatever it is that Theresa May manages to extract from the Europeans, it looks very unlikely that this Brexit will be a happy affair, or that it will be in any way smooth or swift or with any kind of gentle beginnings. So how is the UK going to manage? Well, it's dependent on Scotland to a large extent, as we all know. Pooling and sharing is a term which is used by people like Gordon Brown, and what he means by that is not pooling and sharing. It's not that we're voluntarily sharing out our resources with the rest of the UK to help out. It's that they're being forcibly extracted from Scotland to share amongst the weaker parts of the British economy, which i.e. England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Now, Wales is in a very poor state, unfortunately, because it is heavily dependent on Westminster for all of its funding. Northern Ireland, even worse, depends entirely, almost entirely, on handouts from the UK to maintain its standard of living, which has never been as good as mainland UK. So what do we have left then? We have a Scottish economy which is strong, we have a Scottish social sector which is better than anywhere else in the UK, a health service which is better than anywhere else in the UK, and a group of natural resources which is better than anybody in the UK. So the question now is, which of these four countries is going to be able to survive Brexit the best? I think we all know the answer to that. It's going to be Scotland, because Scotland has got a small population and a very large share of natural resources, disproportionately larger than anywhere else in the United Kingdom. So when it comes to it, and Brexit happens, if we want to survive Brexit and be in a better state than we are now, and at the moment we are being sucked dry by the rest of the UK of all our resources in order to prop up their ailing economies, the best thing that we can do would be to leave the UK entirely and to take a time out and have a look at all the resources that we have, all the needs that we have, and all the possible services and goods that we can export, and see if we can come up with a better way to do business with the rest of the world so that we support ourselves first and foremost. Start at home, make sure that our economy is self-supporting and turns a profit. Now, it should turn a larger profit without the added burden of having to share resources and pool resources, as Brown would say in his euphemisms for "we are stealing all your oil and gas and your other natural resources and we're going to share them amongst everybody else." So when Scotland leaves the United Kingdom, having the United Kingdom leaving the EU at the same time, Scotland needs to take time out, and probably the safest place to do that is to remain in the EU for the time being, so that nothing changes and the Scottish economy is safe and sitting in a good place where we can sit and actually do some thinking about how we progress onwards after Brexit has completed. Now, am I being selfish here? No, I think I'm just being realistic. The English economy is based on borrowing, banking and services. Now that means the South East and London will survive Brexit intact without too much difficulty, but the rest of England will struggle. Scotland has a balanced economy. None of it will be hurt by Brexit so long as we leave the United Kingdom. If we leave with the United Kingdom, then our export economy will be hit, our banking and services industry will be hit. In fact, everything will be hit, because the knock-on effect from our industries contracting and our exports reducing will produce a lot of redundancies. And we can't have that. There's no point. What is the point of leaving the EU to be worse off? So my point here is that Scotland needs to be able to show that it can support itself. And I believe it's already supporting itself. We can demonstrate that from the GERS figures, the GERS figures show that Scotland is easily supporting itself, running at a profit with an operating surplus on all its trade with other countries at the moment. And that will only get better after we separate from the UK, because then we can maintain our current level of exports to the EU. But not only that, but our goods will not be leaving necessarily through English ports and third-party businesses. So we'll not be paying middlemen before our goods go to wherever they're going. It also means, I think, that we need to open our ports, we need to build ships, we need to have a solid Scottish merchant fleet, and we need efficient, modern ports. And we have nothing happening at the moment with the ports. We have the infrastructure in places like Greenock, Rosyth. We have infrastructure also in Glasgow, which is not being used. We have dry docks in Glasgow, which are not being developed. All of these things need to be developed, and there needs to be a plan in place to do this. But my point today in making this broadcast is to demonstrate to you that Scotland, of the four parts of the UK, is the most self-sufficient of all four. And it is the one from which most of the pooling and sharing is happening. The rest of the pooling and sharing, incidentally, comes from London. London and Scotland are approximately equal in terms of their productivity, and the way they contribute to the overall UK economy is roughly the same. But Scotland, as they say in cliche land, punches well above its weight. We produce much more per head of population in terms of GDP than anywhere else, simply because we are so well endowed with resources, and because we have got a good manufacturing and exporting sector balanced with all the other industries that we have in medicine, in electronics, in the automotive industry, in other forms of engineering, in renewable energy, in all sorts of different areas. So, what I'm saying today is that of the four parts of the UK, Scotland is probably in the best situation of any of the four nations to go it alone. We are not self-sufficient in food at the moment. We do rely for much of our food on Europe. Now, that's about 36 to 40% of our food is imported from Europe. But bear in mind that much of what we produce in food goes to Europe. So in terms of balance of trade, we're pretty even with Europe. So we're interdependent with Europe in food at the moment. But we are independent in terms of feeding ourselves because of the balance of trade. So we can easily, and I say easily, support ourselves independent of the rest of the UK and stay within Europe until we've had a chance to look at the trading arrangements that we have with Europe. I read an article yesterday by a Scottish MEP, Alan Smith, who was basically saying that the best place for Scotland to be right at the moment and after Brexit is inside the EU, fully inside the EU, where we get all of the benefits of our current membership. In other words, we get the power to veto decisions. We get to vote on vital, important decisions made in Europe that affect us. At the same time, our regions and our rural areas get the benefits of regional grant aid, funding for infrastructure, because they're on the far frontiers of the European Union. So there are benefits to us staying. No matter how you feel about the European Union, you have to remember that what Scotland needs while it's exiting the UK is stability. And stability comes from remaining with the EU for the time being, until we've had time to discuss our new position with the European Union and to negotiate a new deal with the European Union that suits us. It might well be that having an enhanced membership of the European Union is actually better than coming out of it altogether. We don't know yet, and we don't know what will happen between England, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We don't know anything about what will happen with that, but it's looking more and more likely that there will be a frontier built across Ireland from one side to the other, because if things pan out the way it's looking, the European Union, despite wanting Ireland to be a frictionless border, may not be able to do it. I think the British government will have a hard time selling whatever the European Union decides to give us, and if that happens, the government will go into meltdown and there'll be a general election, and whoever wins that poison chalice will then have to deal with the fallout from that situation. Either way, it's not going to be good. But the point of today's show is to remind you all that Scotland, of the four nations, is the most able to look after itself. We have everything that we need and more, but we can't use it yet. We can't use it until we leave. Today, we see the publication of a second national poll which puts the independence vote at 52.4% for yes. We're leading in this battle. The British government's dirty tricks campaign is going to get worse as that percentage increases, and I predict it will, because once you include the 16 and 17-year-olds who are excluded from such polls, you'll see the percentage reach over 55%, maybe higher than that. And as people switch from staying in Brexit Britain to wanting to be in Scotland and in the EU, you will see a mass exodus from England into Scotland. It's already happening. People are reporting houses being sold all around Edinburgh only to English migrants. They're being bought up by English companies and sold only to English families who are moving north of the border. It's big business. The migration has begun, the panic's beginning to set in England, and Scotland needs to brace itself to be ready to vote. The tide is with us now. We have the lead and we intend to make it stronger. And I'll keep reporting to you as things get better and better for us. But remember, they're going to fight dirty. The British government's already tried to smear Alex Salmond. Nicola Sturgeon will probably be the next target. There will be efforts to derail everybody associated with independence or to discredit them, because that's the way the British state works. And we have them on the run now. They're on the ropes. So have a good day, everybody. Remember, 52.4% for yes. We are winning, and we will continue to strengthen. Bye for now.